All right, let's do it. Welcome to Freedom Fridays here on Edge Radio Australia. The band is together. What can I say? There is no Yoko in the room. We have Dan Worthington all over there. Well, all over there is just in one particular place in the beautiful US of A. How are you doing there in Utah, my friend?
Doing great. We've now approaching being in a land of freedom, thanks to all the good things that Trump and his administration are doing to free us up from the what is he? The shackles of the Biden administration.
I think you've been kind calling them shackles, but there we go. I would more call it the pits of hell.
What did Kamala call it? She called it the leaving those things that were in the past or something to that effect.
I don't want to be burdened by what has been. Okay,
there we go. I was thinking
something about a coconut and a banana. I don't know.
Let's get the introductions done. Over in, I believe, Vietnam at the moment, this international traveller extraordinaire, of course, it's Mr. Carter, Travis Carter. Lovely to see you, my friend.
Likewise, I was looking for some freedom, and I had to go to a communist country to get away from Australia. That just...
I'm sure we'll talk about that in just a moment.
Where's the flag? Where's the Vietnamese flag? You've got the Australian one, but where's the Vietnamese?
I think every second car outside has a Vietnamese flag on it. So I thought, you know what, let's level it out a little bit and rock the Aussie flag. Gift from Mum, by the way. So my mum gave me this one.
Thanks, Mum. Thank you indeed. And, of course, to my right is our resident flag expert, of course, Derek Whittaker, here to bring freedom to all of the nations. This is truly international, let's face it. Perth, Western Australia, Vietnam, and US of A. Fantastic. Look, I'll jump straight to Dan because, obviously, mate, you're living there and we're talking so much about what's going on in the US. I mean, obviously, hey, look, lawfare, FBI, JFK. There's just so many things. What can you possibly talk about today?
Well, seriously, Trump has signed a number of executive orders in the last few days to help try to straighten up the elections and a number of the issues with respect to getting rid of the criminal immigrant folks and send them off to Panama and to Guantanamo or wherever they need to go to get out of our hair and stop committing crimes in public places and raping and pillaging and sex trafficking and doing all the things that they do. And so he's making a good progress. Unfortunately, there are a number of federal judges who have conflicts of interest that have been making decisions against him. The appeals court so far have been pretty supportive. So we'll see what happens on that end of the world. But we see him making good progress. I think he's going to have to push against the courts. Maybe they'll end up firing a couple of those judges. We'll see. There really is no mechanism to fire a judge unless you impeach them. Of course, Justice Roberts doesn't think that's a good idea. So we'll see what happens. Definitely, these people didn't get the memo about the election that President Trump won, and this is overwhelmingly what the American people want. And so here we go. Now, Trump is also really serious about annexing Greenland to the United States. But not because just for the reason of annexing them, but for the purpose of strategic significance for defending the West, because Denmark is incapable of doing it, hasn't really done much in way of providing with that kind of support. As you had mentioned, they're voting to become independent anyway. And so there are so many strategic reserves in Greenland that can benefit the strength of the West, and also it's strategically a military strength, place for strength to be shown, especially in the view of the Chinese and the Russian aggression in the waters around Greenland. So something has to be done soon to stop the aggression.
There's no aggression whatsoever. I mean, this is all just friendly get together time, firing the odd weapon, no big deal.
I thought it was barbecue.
I don't know of anything that the Russians or the Chinese do that's just a friendly get together and a barbecue. Yeah, they want to barbecue something, but it isn't friendly.
No, not indeed. All right, now the man who is currently moved out of Australia he has left democracy to a communist country to find freedom. What's your opinion there, Travis?
I was going to make a few really inappropriate jokes about what Russia and China wanted to fire on, but I'll keep it nice.
Please.
Ash is generally the result of it. So, I think Greenland. A lot of people don't realize this. Greenland is actually a really, really big place, and there's a population of, I think it's 67,000 people. So I don't know if they're actually citizens or just people staying there permanently and stuff like that. There's no way in hell if someone like China or Russia wanted to take Greenland by force, there's no way anyone could stop that with that sort of an army. And you got to remember, most of the Greenland, even though they say green, it's ice. It's right off the coast. So you've got Alaska on one side of Russia, then you've got Greenland on the other side. It's a great place to sort of like hem Russia into one sort of like location. And we're seeing that Russia is becoming more and more not only hostile, but they're actually more open to trade as well. And like calling an end to this. It's China, the one that's like the real problem at the moment that I'm looking at. So I think if America, and they don't have to say, oh, then, you know, Greenland's the 52nd state of America. They can just be like, yeah, they're under our banner, sort of like the Commonwealth of Australia. You're actually under the British banner. Like you don't, and Panama's another one, which was originally under the American banner. They weren't America, they were Panama on their own right, but that America was like helping them out, giving them heaps of money. Oh, wait, that's the rest of the world. I just think it makes sense. And you can have a look, like, to be 100% honest with you, if America brought Australia under their banner instead of England, I'd probably move straight back to Australia, to be honest with you. I love the country. I'm still rocking the Aussie flag, but with what's going on in WA, I seriously believe, and I've just come back from China as well, so I've seen both sides of the argument now. And I've spoken to a lot of people in China, and they're like, there's no impact. Like, I wouldn't live there because everything they do is watched. Everything's controlled. But where Australia is still controlling everything exactly the same, but they're smashing people's faces against the ground. They're jailing you if you don't want to take a vaccine. Where China, they just, whatever, you just can't go anywhere. So it's a really strange thing coming from someone who's super, like, you know,
never mind.
Australia is supposed to be like one of the greatest countries in the world, but then you see who's supposed to be the worst country in the world is actually better than Australia, and it's really that was probably arguably one of the things that put the nail in the coffin. Said, yeah, we're out, we're done, we're not coming back.
Well, you know, it's interesting. If Biden would have had his way, we would have been just as bad as Australia.
Oh, for sure.
That's why I'm so chuffed that I can't stand Trump as a person, but I think he's the best person for America and the world at the moment, because he's saying he's doing what he's saying he's going to do, and he's just bringing back all these rights. And to be honest with you, we're kind of hopping from country to country, so we don't actually have a country of residence at the moment. But if the 150,000 tax-free threshold comes into America, God, America's looking attractive right now.
I can understand that. Look, Derek, you know, you've got a foot on both islands here. What are your thoughts?
I think Australia's time is coming in terms of freedoms. Okay. I think we're more subtle about what is underhand in this country.
It's funny, we don't think about subtlety when we think of Australians. But
you're not really subtle. You're not really subtle.
Well, it's located. It's not as dramatic as
subtle as a brick.
Yeah, really.
Well, the United States is more dramatic. Let's put it that way. You guys know how to put on a show, right? And be on the center stage. And I think I've always said it.
Burn Teslas, right? Burn Teslas.
You know what's, sorry to jump in there, guys. What's really, really funny, when Derek said we know how to be more subtle, the time coding was 9/11.
Oh no! Oh dear, we're going to fix that. Never mind. Just like the CIA did. Anyway,
that was subtle,
wasn't it? Wasn't it?
No, look, I think that the Goliath in the United States is coming down. I think I get the sense kind of we're the calm before the storm at the moment. I think there's more backlash going to happen when you look at how much the United States has cut in its budget with. Thanks to Doge.
Yep.
I think that you're going to see a lot more protesting in the sense of people are not happy that the cash flows have been cut off. Now, I think the protesting is actually funded.
Of course,
they're actually being paid to do it by lobby groups, and they're incredibly organized. Although they look as if they're from the ground, and you know they're networked organically. They're not actually.
It's like when you have like a riot, okay, in a city, and then pallets of bricks get dropped off.
Well,
I mean, come on.
I've seen pictures of they've actually got protest lines printed out and this sort of thing. I think it's distributed these protest lines, on what they're going to say.
On the last one where AOC and Bernie were there, 84% of the people in the crowd were actually repeat attenders from various protests around the country. They were brought in. So it's a farce. It isn't real.
It's a higher crowd moment.
Dan, I don't know about you.
So we've had some rallies against a certain thingy in Australia over the last 4 or 5 years, but a couple of the rallies I went to, the same sort of thing was happening. They were actually handing out, hey, this is the chant we're going to be using. Like 4 or 5 people started up, then everyone else takes off after it. So you do have protest leaders or rally leaders or whatever they want to call it. So the chant side of things, printing out chant lines, that's happens in every single rally. So I do have to play the devil's advocate. It does happen both sides.
Well, no. These
Shipping people around the America to go to each of these rallies, that's dodgy.
Oh, it's fake. It's fake.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Because for me, the thing that I've seen come through in the last sort of 10 days about this, there's now a bit of they're trying to get some momentum for AOC to become actually the candidate for the next election, you see. So, I mean, with such quality of politicians there, with someone like AOC as the president, how could America go wrong?
Well, no. You have to say AOC looks pretty much like a donkey. And that's the symbol of the Democratic Party with her teeth and all that, She looks like a jackass. She acts like a jackass.
Her running mate has to be the chick from Sex and the City. She's got a long face like a horse as well.
Bernie's about ready to die. I mean, Uncle
How
Bernie.
Is that man still upright?
Just honestly, really, that's my point. You remember that movie about the Uncle Bernie who actually was dead, and they took him around all the places. Weekend with Bernie. Yeah,
well, that's why I was calling the last established government in the last party that was taking power there. I used to say it was literally Weekend at Biden's. It really was.
It really was. The
well,
crime
it's just
family,
part 2 of it. The Weekend Out. So they've got Walking Dead Biden. Now they've got a Walking Dead Bernie Sanders.
Well, it was amazing that there were plans that if Biden did keel over, that there were other contingencies coming in place. But of course, his health was imperfect to the public. His health was in perfect fine form.
They've caught AOC red-handed doing something illegal. She used her campaign dollars to print up a bunch of educational material to be plastered all over the place in these places where the immigrants are to resist the federal authorities going in, which is a violation of the U.S. code. And so she has committed a federal violation and she could end up with her butt in jail, which I sure hope happens.
Oh, look, they'd never. Why would they use warfare? I mean, come on. No way. America would never.
They wouldn't use it. She's violated the law. What she's doing is encouraging these illegal aliens to violate the law. I mean, it's clear what the law says. And because she's aiding and abetting them deliberately, intentionally, she's violating the law. She deserves to be prosecuted. And she's using campaign dollars to do it, which is illegal as well.
Right. In Australia right now, our what we like to call Karen, okay, the woman in charge of the cybersecurity of Australia, do you know she's been caught actually deleting messages and deleting all sorts of things, WhatsApp messages, all that. Now, that's completely against the law, completely against her entire, I was going to say portfolio, but it's not. It's her position as a bureaucrat. But unbelievable. They think they can get away with it. And I want to actually shout out and say a big thank you to Avi Yamini about that, because he is on it. Freedom of information stuff. Absolutely fantastic job there, Avi. Really good stuff.
Hang on, just so I'm clear, people don't like what Musk is doing because he's an unelected bureaucrat deleting things and cancelling contracts. But our Karen is doing exactly the same thing, but getting paid for it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, no, she's not deleting things that actually save the country money or protect the people. No, she's just actually, I believe it's called covering one's ass. That's what she's doing. She's deleting evidence that actually incriminates her for breaking the law.
Yeah. So just going quickly back to AOC, and if she does get charged and she gets the nomination, it'd be criminal versus criminal, because I don't think they've appealed Trump's convictions yet.
Well, no, what'll happen to her is she'll be kicked out of Congress.
Good.
Yeah.
Is what'll
she can
happen.
still run.
No, because she's a convicted felon. She wouldn't be able to run.
But how does that work with Trump?
People in Congress already convicted felons?
He's a president. He's You know, and that conviction was bogus. This would actually be legitimate.
Well, we all know that, but I mean, from a legal standpoint, bogus or not, I mean, you know, the judges in all countries, or certainly of the Western world, probably the East as well, are incredibly compromised. I look at what the judges are saying in Australia at the moment. I see what's going obviously in the US with what they're fighting against the decisions that Trump's making. I mean, we've got a complete legal system. Certainly not a justice system. It's a legal system.
No, it is justice. It is justice. Justice. No one else. And thank you, Avatar the Last Airbender, for that great little pickup line there.
It's just them. It's just them, not just us.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're speaking from their point of view. They have got to be compromised. And it's sort of, whenever you hear any of this, it makes me think about, geez, I wonder why Epstein Island, things like this, wonder why they exist, right? Really. There's a lot of people out there making incredibly illegal and unethical calls that affect a lot of people, and they can't be doing it because they can't be that stupid, right? Simple as that.
Okay.
They were protected. Epstein's client list was protected. Still is.
Still is.
This is something I have to give kudos to Trump for this one during his first campaign. So there was a line saying where Hillary was saying, you don't go after all the so-called illegal donors and political campaign monies and all that sort of stuff. And Trump said, no, I'm not going to. And it's because the way the system is structured, all of her donors are using the exact same system that he's using, not to pay his taxes and all that sort of stuff. So the Epstein list, even though it's not, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is not ethical, and some things are illegal and they need to be investigated, but there's a lot of the stuff that they were doing, like flying over international waters where there is no age of consent. So it's legally, it's not breaking the law. Morally, it's just they need a bullet. So they know the system, they know how to get around it. So that's where a lot of these countries, Australia's a shocker for it. Like there's all these laws. So the Attorney General in WA said if a kid is Aboriginal and under the age of 12, do not open up a case file on them.
That's right.
And then we just had crime going out of control. So he's made that decision, which should never have been done. You do the crime, you do the time. Parents got to be responsible for their kids. And this is exactly the same sort of thing that's happened, but much worse stage. They've gone through, they've made the laws to suit themselves. So they're not actually, a lot of them aren't breaking the laws, but what they're doing is morally corrupt. And I hope they burn in hell.
It's sex trafficking that's illegal. And that's no matter what. I mean, you got international law that comes into play here too. And certain standards.
Through.
Well, I mean,
I'm saying, like, the whole system is destroyed. Like they've played it like a fiddle. They know where they can get away with things, stuff like that. So I know, really, and really love.
They're making money hand over fist. They're making. Yeah. I mean, you got all these Saudi princes and everything that have to build their harems somehow, right?
What about military law, Dan? Where does that come into the picture?
Well, it only comes into play if you got military personnel that are doing it, right? So the UCMJ prosecutes military people that violate the UCMJ, but they have no jurisdiction civilly, right?
Dan, does that count military personnel family?
Yeah, you can.
So wasn't Biden the commander-in-chief of the military, which counts as a family member?
No, but he's a civilian.
I hope there's another way we'll get our Biden.
There's got to be someone. There's got to be something there.
Okay. Well, I mean, eventually, in not too distant future, the guy's going to die because he's nearly dead anyway, right?
I'm talking about Hunter here, not Joe. Like Joe's time's up anyway, but maybe it's time to get the CIA onto Hunter Biden. I want
to just change tack, everybody, for a moment, right? The show is called Freedom Friday, and we're sitting here, and one of us has literally fled the country. Okay, now looking for freedom. Why don't you take this opportunity? It could be you.
I'm not an asylum seeker.
You should.
Actually, that's what I should do. Just the shits and giggles, I should go to America and seek asylum.
Wouldn't work.
Well, there's
you got a better plan.
Here's my thought, mate. Why don't you take this opportunity to explain why you've left this beautiful country? Australia is a wonderful place. You're clearly proud of the country. You have the flag behind you. Why would you want to get up and move?
I'm proud of the people of Australia, and the people that created Australia and brought it to what it is over the last, 100 years. What shits me to absolute tears is the damage that people like Anthony Albanese, is causing to Australia. So if we have a look at, I'm from Western Australia originally. Well, actually New South Wales, but I moved to WA when I was really young. So if you want to have a look at political overreach, so John Papalia is the police minister. During his term, so you remember there's a little thing called the privacy laws here. So he released a map that showed every single household across Australia where the handheld pistols were and where the rifles were.
Wasn't that just Western Australia?
That was just Western Australia. Yes. So he literally put a target on every single Australian who owned a firearm. And then he turned around, he keeps changing laws, they keep taking things, more and more rights are taken away from us. During the COVID bullshit, I'll be honest with you, I didn't get the jab because I was lazy and I've got a phobia of needles. So, but then the wife went down the full rabbit hole. She got fired. She was actually going through cancer treatment at the time. And so she wanted to wait until the cancer treatment was over.
Yep.
She lost her job because she wanted to wait. And that caused her to go down the rabbit hole. So, and it's just things like that. We start opening up our eyes and we start looking deeper and deeper and seeing things. And it infuriates me. It goes further. Then it goes to the family law court and how corrupt and abusive that system is. And there's really, really easy fixes to it. First of all, domestic violence restraining orders, just make them both ways. If someone applies for one, not only is it a restraining order against the other parent, it goes the other way as well. Not only can they not contact you, but you can't contact them. Done. Solves 90% of the problem straight away. You know, there's a lot of really simple fix, but because they're trying to defend the amount of money they get for each of these things, they're happy to strip all our rights and freedoms away from us. And it's got to the point where we went through the whole entire process. We built all these houses in Geraldton. We did everything we could. We busted our backsides for about 5 years to start trying to get ourselves ahead. We, as a landlord, had no rights to try and take the tenants for anything. The moment they pay, they'd skip 3 or 4 weeks of rent, then they'd make a single payment, then we had to start the process all over again. It got to the point with the tenants up in Geraldton, we actually rocked up to the house with an excavator saying we're done demolish the house in half an hour. You get out now, or I'm done demolish the house with you in it. Highly illegal, not allowed to do that in Australia. Good news is they got the out, so I was able to repair and rent. So these tenants set our bathroom on fire and there was nothing we could do about it. So we reported it to RAC. My daughter also burnt herself out at the same time. So I was more concerned about making sure that she was okay. Because we didn't check on the house for 63 days, RAC turned around and cancelled every single one of our insurance policies, even though it wasn't involved in that incident. And then when I went to the Ombudsman and said, hey, what the hell is going on here? They sided with RAC. So then we had to cover the bill for all the damage caused by we did everything right. So, and it's just every single step of the way we go, someone's trying to screw us over. So to try and get ahead again, we built a granny flat in our backyard, went to put it up as an Airbnb. Oh no, without telling anyone, they snuck it through that every single Airbnb house has to be reported to the government. You got to tell them who's staying in your house and you got to pay a fee every single year to have people living with you.
Yeah. Where's the freedom of enterprise, quite frankly? You
you just don't have any freedoms whatsoever. Like you're controlled down to the tiniest things. So we also, they wanted to bring the drag queen story times into the school where we had our daughters. I'm a Christian. I think if you want to be a drag queen, go knock yourself out. Do it 18 in a nightclub or something where there's adult play. Do not put it into a kindergarten or a primary school. That's just insane. So
it's called grooming.
The kids out. I refuse to do the LGBTQ classes and all that sort of stuff as a homeschooling parent. So they try to remove our rights to homeschool our kids. So again, in Vietnam or America, if I want to homeschool my kids and I want to teach them any curriculum I want, I'm free to do whatever I want. Even in China, if you want to homeschool your kids, you can homeschool your kids.
Right.
They don't check on you. It's just when you go to get to university, you've just got to pass the test and make sure the kids are up to a certain level. And every single time we've turned around, tried to do something, we are getting absolutely screwed, suppressed. There's nothing we can do. So we got to the point where our house was about an $800,000 investment. So if we were to rent that out, so remember, $800,000, so more than $750,000. After we take out the government charges, so not interest and all that, government charges and all the other fees, charges, insurances, and everything else we got to do, we were making about $20,000 in the pocket a year. Taking that money out and reinvesting it in other countries, I can turn that into anywhere between $80,000 to $200,000 a year for the same money. So why the hell would I stay in Australia? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So
the beaches, mate. That's about it.
yeah, so I'm out. So enjoy Albo for the next 4 years because there's so many retards in Australia who don't care about politics and they're going to make everyone else suffer. I think Australia as a whole needs another 4 to 6 years of absolute torture before that people start getting off their ass and fixing shit.
You know what?
Sounds like there needs to be an enema.
Oh, what it needs.
Up to the elbow, I reckon.
I talk to a lot of people.
They need to pull the hand out of their ass.
Constantly. But I want to say this. Okay, I think the greatest culprit for what's going on in this country, full stop, is actually no. I think it's the bloody media, because the media is so owned. The propaganda is so strong. When you have conversations with people, people are like, "Oh well, yeah. Look, I naturally warm to Albo more than I do to Dutton. Therefore, I'm going to vote for him." Or, "Oh yeah, no, he's doing good things." No, he is not. He is absolutely setting his country on fire, and people are believing what they're seeing on something like the Seven West Media or whatever, an ABC. Somebody said to me 2 days ago, I watch the ABC because I don't like it all being interfered with. I like a nice sort of honest and unbiased opinion. And I went, oh, my God, from the ABC.
I was doing exit poll when I went and voted at the last WA state election. So a lot of people, I was talking to people while I was in the line, talking like, it's me. I talk to everyone. Anyway, they're saying, I don't like what's happening in Australia. The cost of living is too much. So Dan, just so you know, in Australia, Perth, WA, you need a family income of $140,000 a year just to afford a rental.
Wow.
Not to buy a house. No. That's to afford a rental property. Anyway, so people were saying they're going to vote based on cost of living and who's got the best policies for the cost of living. Now, Liberals were just nothing. They were a wet tissue. And so when I was talking to people as they were leaving, they were saying, I voted for Labor because I can't see something different changing under Liberals. So they'd be saying like, I'm going to vote for Democrats because I can't see the Republicans doing something. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, it blows my mind. You're sitting there complaining, cost of living's bad, so we'll just keep doing the same thing.
The other thing that I'm observing about that Travis, is that the Liberal Party isn't putting up enough opposition to actually have an alternative to vote for. That's one thing. So they're seeing people are looking at this going, well, we're not happy that Liberal aren't doing their job either. So there's kind of what I think is probably the protest vote, where it's going, we're not going to vote for Labor. And I'm looking at signs around my local area coming into the federal election now. It's going, they're anti-Labor type campaigns. Don't vote for Labor. In other words, vote for anyone, but just don't vote Labor last is what they're saying. Vote Labor last. Now, the difference people need to equate here is that we are in a preferential voting system. And I think that's a bit of a problem, because if you don't vote for one of the major parties, right, you've got then everyone voting for all these minor parties. And of course, if the minor parties aren't getting enough of that primary vote, they're not going to get the seat. So it filters down to the next candidate, whoever it might be, whether it be a different party or an independent or whoever. And I think I'm not sure that just don't vote for anyone but this party is actually working.
It's not. It's really not.
It's not focused enough.
So you got to remember, for One Nation, I was actually one of the campaign managers during the last federal election. I was also in charge of all the scrutineers going through it. I was regular contacts with our AEC as well. So this is one of the problems where even the people running the elections aren't telling everyone, like they're telling them the truth, like they're not lying or anything, but they're omitting a heap. So they're lying through omissions. So let's have a look at the lower house voting ticket, which Derek was just talking about. You got to number every single one. No, you don't. The only thing you legally have to do is tick your name off in Australia. You don't have to number any of those tickets. If you don't want to vote for a single candidate, don't. Just tick your name off, walk out the building, because what happens is no one gets a vote then. It's not trickling down to Labor or Liberals or anything like that. It becomes a more truer vote. But let's say you want to support the minor parties. You don't want to leave the Greens out. You want to leave the Labor out. You want to leave the Liberals out. You just want to vote minor parties and that's it. That's fine. Just put numbers in those minor parties, because what happens, your number one vote is counted. Your number two vote is counted. Your number three vote is counted. But none of them win a seat. That's fine. At number four, your vote becomes informal and no one gets your vote at that point. It is valid until it is invalid. And that's the actual wording for it. So if your number one vote is valid, it's counted. Number two vote is valid, it's counted. Number three is counted. Number four, let's say you put two number threes. At that point, both the number threes aren't counted. So your first and second votes are still counted. So it's absolute bull crud what is going on. No one understands this stuff. And you tell people this and they're like, oh no, what do you know? And it's like, at what point do you say, right, enough's enough, I'm out? Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. How many? The other one I love is a lion is arguing with a donkey over who's the fastest and most powerful, and this goes on for years. And eventually one of the giraffes says, oh, go talk to the owl. He's wise and smart and all this. So they both go over to the owl. And the owl goes, oh, yeah, the donkey's the fastest and strongest. And the lion's like, and the donkey runs like, oh, yeah. And the lion turns around and goes, what are you doing? And the owl goes, why are you arguing with an ass?
Oh,
and that's Australia at the moment. You got all these. We've got all these idiots that are like arguing blue in the face, and they're not going to change their opinion. And I hate to say it, at the moment, I'd probably say 80% of Australians have their head in the sand. They don't understand the system, and they're not willing to listen. At the moment, because they're not willing to listen, why are we wasting our time trying to convince, in the metaphor of the joke, asses to change their opinion when they just don't care? And this is why I'm saying Australians aren't ready to listen. So what they need 4 to 6 years of suffering before they're like, you know what, maybe we really do need to look at this. Maybe we need to do something for our kids. Maybe we do need to defend ourselves. And I'm encouraging the people who do have the finances, and the way to speed this process up is get the hell out.
It's more than that, though, too, because you've got public servants who want to be unaccountable for their actions and what they do. This is what I've observed in my interactions with the local poly in my area, and he runs away. He runs away from the hard issues. And I actually saw him on polling day when we rocked up, and it was quite funny. I thought I'd be cheeky. I'd wear a MAGA hat just to stir the pot a bit. And he sees me, and I think he mistook my red hat for a Labor hat.
Oh, dear.
And he reaches for didn't we talk before? And he's reaching for a how to vote card for me. And I just looked at him and said, I don't vote for politicians who don't answer my questions. Good on you. And he ran away. He literally disappeared. And all the other parties are looking at this interaction that's going on between us, right? And of course, all the One Nation guys leapt on me, thought I was wonderful and this sort of stuff.
Many of them had names Singh.
That's the issue. They were all migrants. It was an interesting phenomena that was going on. And I think one of the things that's in common across the borders that America has dealt with, England is certainly dealing with, and Australia is now dealing with, is the influence of migrants coming into this country. That I'm not anti-migrant. Gosh, my family migrated here, but I'm wondering how many of them are aligned to Australian values. And I think that's the biggest concern that Australian residents are happening. Labor is doing the same trick that the Democrats did in America, but just more subtly and differently. They've allowed 1.5 million migrants across our borders in the last 2 years. What they did in the last Australia Day over in Sydney and New South Wales and that is they made a federal action that, well, you know what, we're going to pass the citizenship ceremonies quicker because the councils are taking far too long to process them. Yes. And I'm going, that's interesting. Why would you do that? Well, we're coming up to an election, aren't we? And of course, what I've been noticing in the campaigning by Labor is that they are courting that migrant vote really, really well. They're saying, we're going to give how much money for your Hindu temple. We'll give this much money for your Sikh temple. Even Dutton, to be fair to both sides, Dutton announced that we're going to give $8 million for the first Hindu temple in Australia, right? I've got footage of him doing that.
Why do we need to?
And so,
if it can sustain itself.
What I'm saying is, okay, if you're going to do that, how much are you going to get to churches that are already established here that represent, in terms of attendance, more of the population and voting population is there? I'm hearing Zippo about that. And so I'm just, that's the big concern I think Australians are having is our values are changing and you're letting in people who don't share those values. That's not racist, okay? It's not. That's concern for the direction that the nation is coming, because if you start putting in different values into the mix, well, guess what? That's going to influence the direction and trajectory that the nation goes in.
That's right. That's right.
Take it a step further, because you also got to remember the Bible, the Buddhist religions, the Jewish side of things. A lot of that, they're the holy books. They're not a form of government. It's a way you live your everyday life. Government and church are supposed to be separate. The problem is when you start bringing in Islam, the government system is the Quran. Well, so there's no separation between church and government.
I was just watching an interview this morning with Liz Truss, the shortest terms of prime ministership.
She's
fascinating interview
really,
with what she's actually saying. There are plans in England at the moment to bring in Sharia law.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. And she's saying, here's the problem. It's the system that's the issue. Because it's not just the politicians, but the politicians who do try to make change are hit by so many public servants who have too much power in their country that influence the direction it goes. So when she got in there, she felt like there was a gun to her head, metaphorically speaking, that she couldn't make the changes that she wanted to, and that the Bank of England blamed her for the fall of the mistakes that the policies they were putting out there. And she, in her opinion, was saying, look, they failed at what they do, and that is to keep the price of living under control. They weren't doing that.
Yeah. Well, as well, it's funny you should say that. The new Prime Minister of Canada is actually a triple citizen. So Canadian, British, and something else. And they did an interview before he even applied to be the Canadian Prime Minister. He doesn't even identify as a Canadian. He identifies as a European.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So you're going from one Muppet to another. So
look, I just saw the other day the stats, and they were running through Europe about how much of particular countries or cities were actually the percentage of migrants now, right? Okay, Amsterdam, right? What would you consider to be the migrant population of Amsterdam? Just throw a number at me.
Oh, probably 60% Arabic.
Well, they didn't specifically say Arabic, but they said 70% are immigrants. 70%. Most of Europe is now over 60. Obviously, we know the UK is just certainly not Anglo-Saxon anymore, not in any measurable number. This has happened so much, and it's all about culture. It's destruction of culture. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the globalist agenda. That has been filtering out for so long, and we're seeing that play out now, filter through, so to speak. But the hope is we're also seeing the pushback, and I think that will take a while to filter through. But America is certainly leading the way in that. And it's funny to watch how many politicians are absolutely terrified of that information getting out to the populace and people getting ideas about it. It's like, whoa, let's censor that one.
Well, I want Dan's opinion on this. I just want to throw it out there that, most of our media here in Australia is absolutely just trying to destroy Trump. They're making him out to be a monster. They're making him out to these policies to being so destructive to the world and to Americans specifically. They're doing a very, very good job of demonizing him. What are your thoughts about that as a person who's now, you're living in it, mate? This is your world.
Oh, yeah. That's what the media does. I mean, they're all part of the democratic machine, right? In our country, the Democrats have lost their way, and so the only thing they do have going for them is the fact that they effectively control the media. But Trump has sort of neutralized the media in some respects, in that they're afraid to say certain things because they're going to get called on it. Because that really sharp person that represents Trump in these media events isn't afraid to call these idiots off all their stuff, their propaganda. And she calls it, man, they are really look foolish on American television when they try to take her on, because Levitt's good.
Not only that, but they're going further. They're allowing podcasters to come into the press conference, and they're also now taking a step further. The White House is now arranging what seats the journalists can sit in. That was done by an independent body that represented the journos before. So the White House is now even taking control of who's going to be on front row and who's going to be in the back row.
Yeah, that's important, because they're no longer controlling the agenda.
Yeah, it's showing, hey, we're going to disrupt your pecking order here that you guys in traditional media have done.
Well, even if you don't play fair, you don't get a seat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I have to sorry, just quickly, I have to give a shout out to Forbes, Forbe. I don't know if they do the hottest 100, like richest people in the world, same Forbes or not. But what they do a live stream of everything that goes on in every single one of these press conferences. And they're getting a huge number of viewers on these things, because there's no sugarcoating that. They can't cut this line here, that line there, and make up a story. There's so many new people that are in that room now that weren't there previously. So the truth is getting out there. And the fact that Trump's doing everything live, even signing the executive orders, he's answering questions immediately, he's literally being the most accessible president in history, is literally pulling the teeth from the mainstream media, or the legacy media as he calls it.
Well,
and his popularity numbers are up as well. He's most through the roof.
They had the interview with Doge, and interestingly, it wasn't just Musk; it was a number of business leaders that were there answering the questions. People who are credible and well versed and intelligent, and so they can't put it all on Musk. It really is a number of people who are influential in the financial markets and very knowledgeable that are part of Doge and who are part of helping restructure government. And they're not doing it to benefit themselves. They're doing it because they want America to succeed. They want America to be great again, right?
Just quickly on Doge, I pulled up a couple of figures on the Doge website. So doge.gov underneath the savings tab on the top right-hand corner. Well, it's actually more towards the middle. So estimated savings so far is $130 billion, which works out to be $807.45 US dollars each for each American citizen.
How good is that?
And he hasn't even taken into account all the social security stuff that they've just saved, because they're still going through all of that. They haven't even touched the Pentagon, which I was listening to, I think it's Hexeth, was saying that the Pentagon budget is the largest budget out of everything. Like they've just got a splash fund where they just go ham. So it'll be really interesting to see once they finish that.
They're also going to hit CIA next too. And I think it's interesting that they got the JFK files out before then. Yes. I think that was rather strategic in the sense that, listen, we're going to position this. We're going to show transparency here. And now we're coming for the numbers.
Well, the problem with the CIA is it got a lot of dark money and access to it. Drug money and other things that they're doing. They're so damn corrupt that it's pathetic. I mean, I don't know how they're going to shut them down because they're so deeply corrupt and embedded in international organizations.
When it comes to the FBI, goes all the way back to Hoover, right? Hoover was as dodgy as they come. Yeah, all the things that are coming out about him, I'm sure they've been out for years and years, but they're sort of becoming well known now.
Bush Sr. was no prince. I mean, he was corrupt too. I mean, the problem is we've had these crime families in control of American politics for many years. I mean, we haven't had a decent semi-honest president since Ronald Reagan. Really.
I would have said 2000, but okay, let's run with that.
Yeah, the problem is that corruption and influence peddling and the money goes so deep in the American psyche and the American politics. It's literally, it's almost impossible to root it out. Now, Trump is going to try, but there's going to be such a pushback by all the people that are going to be losing money because of all the sweetheart deals and the backdoor payments and the payola and everything. You know how many billions of dollars that were lost in Ukraine? Guess where that ended up? Yeah, right. In the pockets of American Democratic politicians, in the pocket of the president of Ukraine, that kind of thing. I mean, that corruption has to stop. And Trump is saying, let's stop the war. Let's end all this killing. It's stupid. Putin, you're stupid to keep going and moving. Nothing is benefiting the world by doing this. You're not going to influence friends or help your people at all. So let's stop this stuff. Same with Hamas. I mean, nuke them if whatever. Get rid of them because they're a wart on the butt of the world. Is really what they are. Jordanians need to take them in. The Saudis, nobody wants them because they know the trash they are.
Sorry, Dan, I lost you on that one. Who were you referring to?
Hamas.
Oh, sorry. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. You went quiet for that little second. I didn't pick it up. That makes complete sense. Well, I don't know about nuking them because there's a lot of other consequences to that. But yeah, look, let's face it, they need to be obliterated from the face of the earth.
Yeah, they do because the Palestinian people have been brainwashed. And there really isn't a Palestinian people. They're all Jordanian, basically. Example is Jordan doesn't want them back. Egypt doesn't want them. Nobody wants them because they are a pain and aren't looking at things realistically. They're not willing to get along and have peace. They don't want peace. They just want war. And they can't survive with that mentality. So,
a couple of things that I did see in the news this week. So the Palestinian people were actually marching against Hamas, trying to get rid of them out of Palestine. They want to accept the redevelopment plan that Trump put forward. So that's some really, really good news. Trump's also moved, I think it's 8 B-2 bombers off the coast of Iran. I forget what island it is. It's one of their military bases they share with England. So they're within striking distance. But it wasn't just the 8 B-2 bombers. There was a whole heap of support crews and everything as well. Like, there's a massive military move over there. So Iran's within days, I think, is the letter that Trump sent out, is that expiry date's coming up. So I would not be surprised if there's a large military action near into Iran and all the supporting, like Lebanon, the Houthis and all that sort of stuff. That includes Palestine as well. So I think America is going to be very, very military active in a very, very short amount of time. So
yeah, unless
anyway,
people
guys, I've
back
got to
down.
mute myself. I've got a call from the Vietnamese bank. I got to go. So
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's throw Lasso in the show and we'll go out in the Wild West sort of thing. Your final thoughts there, Derek?
Well, I think it's exciting times to live. It really is. It really, really is.
Very true.
And I think, as I've said years ago, that this was a battle, not of bullets and bombs necessarily, but certainly of propaganda and psychological warfare. And I think we're seeing it play out once again. I think we have, I've heard prophets say this, and I agree with them. I think this is the calm before the storm. The calm is starting to end. Because the funds are being cut off before, USAID has just been debunked.
Sure.
The World Health Organization, America's just pulled out of funding that organization. So now it's at a 15% loss in terms of it's looking at cutting its staff and all this sort of stuff. The ripple effect of that going on globally is massive. As America, the big whale, splashes around, the rest of the world feels the splash. And I think it's really, really exciting for those who have been oppressed. As freedom starts splashing around, expect that to splash on us.
Oh, look, for my thoughts, I think we need at least 3 terms of Republicans in the US if we're going to actually get this done. Really do. I think that, that the 8 years to follow Trump would be the go. What are your thoughts?
Let me just say on that. I mean, look how many decades it took the Democrats and the left and the globalists to build that to that point. And look how much of the carpet has been pulled out from under them in such a short while. I think they've been in shock. and so, you've got a super team in the White House at the moment.
On that team, I keep seeing these news stories about the fact of apparently these people are doing it for money. Okay, just so you know, be aware of it. Now, I was looking at a couple who have come from the media. So you've got Dan and I can't remember his last name, but the ex FBI chap, Secret Service guy. He's literally taking, and Hesketh, they're both taking pay drops of about $4 million a year, right? So they're going from mid-4s to roles that are under $300,000, right? You don't do that unless you truly love your country, and head off to them, right, on that one. Dan?
Amen. Now you're seeing a lot of patriots coming to the foreground because we have an unprecedented opportunity to clear out the swamp and to get things more set right so that American freedom can ring in the United States and around the world. See, the thing is, what benefits the United States will ultimately benefit all the countries, the free world. They'll benefit. It's strength through deterrence. It's strength through strength. Standing up to the aggression of the Chinese, the Russians, or anybody else. Standing up to the aggression of the president of Ukraine. The stupid decisions that and they're doing it. And the sole purpose behind it is so they can funnel money and build on the corruption and everything else. That's got to stop. We got to stop padding the books in our country with illegal money and corruption and people and funding people who are not supposed to be on our Social Security rolls, and closing down the bank to corruption in the United States so that we can get on an even keel with our budget and build ourselves back stronger. That'll eventually help the whole world build back stronger, especially the free world.
Yeah, when you follow the money, you'll get the results, right? When you control the money, absolutely. All right.
That's right.
Thanks for everything, quite frankly, Dan. Great to always have you on every week as part of Freedom Friday. This has been Freedom Friday, of course, on Edge Radio Australia.